Today's video is to talk about why it is prudent to obtain a buyer's rep agreement when representing a buyer. This comes from a question that was presented to me by a broker. The broker's agent had had an attorney tell her not to get a buyer rep agreement because it created more liability for her. I do not agree with that statement. Under agency law, you can create agency by your actions. If you hold yourself out as representing someone and that person relies on that representation, you created an agency relationship with all the inherent fiduciary duties that accompany that. The buyer rep agreement contains the safe harbor of intermediary relationships, meaning if you have the buyer rep agreement signed, the buyer agrees to allowing you to act on behalf of both parties to a transaction, seller and buyer, without being subject to suit for conflict of interest if the transaction goes south. And you know, many times you will sell an in-house listing and you need to be protected. You cannot be protected under the safe harbor rule to act as an intermediary unless you get written agreement from your client before you enter into any intermediary negotiations. And that written agreement must contain specific verbiage. The buyer rep agreement contains that. Now, if you do not have a buyer rep agreement, you can still create that agreement with a buyer using a separate written form, but some people fail to get that separate form before they find themselves already in an intermediary position. There are other reasons for obtaining a written agreement between the buyer and their agent for representation, but for the simple reasons already discussed, I encourage each of you to obtain a buyer rep agreement when representing a buyer in a purchase of real property. Thank you for your questions and comments. Keep them coming. Allegiance Title is your trusted resource for results. Thank you.